Hi, it's Vicky again with today's question. And today it is, what makes something good or bad? So what is it that you think is good and what do you think is bad? And I guess I'd like you to think about what good and bad is. So this came about because when I was taking the kids to school this morning, I was listening to the radio and they were talking about coronavirus, as seems to be the topic of discussion most days. And they were talking about what a dreadful year 2020 had been. And nowadays, that kind of comment just really jars with me, because there's an assumption that for everybody, 2020 has been terrible. And that's not completely true. That's a judgment about a year. And so I just kind of wanted to look at that a little bit more. So you're probably there sitting there going, well, what's the problem with that? Like 2020 has been a terrible year, so you can't really argue with that. Well, what I'd like you to consider is that for some people, 2020 has been an amazing year. So for example, if you're a scientist who's trained and studied and researched all their lives into viruses, then coronavirus coming along is like the best thing ever, because they actually get to put their training into practice. They get to develop a vaccine quickly and know that they're going to have a vital role in changing the lives of many people. Or for the supermarket bosses. I mean, with so much time being spent in lockdown here in the UK and essential shops being shut, the supermarkets must be having an absolute bonanza year. The bosses must be sitting there rubbing their hands together. They've made so much money compared with previous years, I would imagine. So for them, 2020 is not a really bad year. And my personal experience, 2020 hasn't been a really bad year. So thinking about what's good and bad, there is no such thing as good or bad. This box in front of me, some people might say it's good, it's useful, it's got hair clips in it, it's in my daughter's room. Other people might say it's really ugly and it's bad. But it's an individual opinion. It's a thought about something that is not objective. That box is going to be seen differently to everybody, and they're going to have a different opinion about it, in the same way that there will be different opinions about coronavirus. It just appears to us, because we hear it so much on the news and in popular sort of conversations, that it's a really bad thing. So there is no objective good or bad. There is just a thing or a situation. And then we place a judgment on that. And that judgment is created out of thought. And it will be created out of conditioning and beliefs and all kinds of other stuff. So everybody will have something different to bring to it. But on its own, the thing is just is, before our thoughts come in and judge it to be something else, good or bad. So what's really interesting is when you start to look at this for yourself. So I used to have a lot of thinking about winter being bad. I used to hate the winters. They were dark, they were cold, they were miserable. I had a lot of judgment, a lot of thinking about winter. And because of that, my experience of winter was an unpleasant one. And then when I started looking at this, I realised that winter was just winter. Until I placed a judgment on it, it just was as it was. And so when I became aware of the judgments that I was making about winter, I realised that I no longer had to place attention on that. I didn't have to believe it. I didn't have to buy into it. I could just notice that I had that thinking, I had that judgment about it. And in the noticing, I didn't have to do anything, but that's now fallen away. I don't have judgment about winter. I don't feel the same way about winter at all. So I kind of just want to leave it there. I want to leave it for you to get curious about your judgments, about what you consider to be good and bad, and to see whether that's really true. And to consider the possibility that if those things aren't true, that you could have a completely different experience of them. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I will be here again on Monday with another question of the day. Bye.